War in Croatia started when I was 15, and it was very dangerous, especially my town, my hometown was bombarded quite heavily. And the trouble is, war was going on for 4 years. So eventually, all of us decided that we need to continue our lives, because it's very difficult to stop everything, not function, and just to be hidden in the basement. So me and my teacher, piano teacher, we decided to prepare ourselves for this big competition in Zagreb, in capital. So we were practicing all days long in the basement of the music school, because music school was closed and it didn't work. But for us, it was kind of like oasis, like an escape from that horrible situation where we found ourselves. And basically, we came to Zagreb and I won that competition in the middle of that crazy situation in Croatia. That was a long time ago. I think this year is the 20 years that I started to do crossover. In that time, there weren't many of musicians who experimented with crossover music, so it was quite kind of frowned upon, so a lot of classical musicians were questioning, Today it's a different thing, today it's a genre for itself. There are so many, young musicians who are doing crossover music. I wanted to present classical music in a different way. I, as a classical musician, thought that we need to increase interest with amongst young audience, because one day if young audience doesn't pick up the tradition, there will be no one who will continue the tradition of classical music. So I think crossover music was much more approachable for these younger generations. I wanted to present this classical music in a different way. So I introduced like a lighting shows on my concerts, just to present it like more in a pop way. And as a result, I gained, I don't know what percentage of the audience were just young people who would normally never come to classical music. Yes, I mean, that's the thing, what I said about the tradition and intriguing young people in the classical music. That's the definite, proof that crossover music is, making interest. There are so many young people who, with now today, like a social media, they are recording themselves, they are recording their pieces, on the Instagram and TikTok's account, So this is some movement which didn't exist when I was younger. So this is a good thing, having the social networks in the media, to share your progress, to share your success and your performances. I think my soul is classical, I think, because, for example, I listen mostly to classical music every morning when I wake up. When I drink coffee, I listen to classical music, some operas. I've been a classical musician since I was 9. I've been on stage playing classical music since I was 9. Crossover, I really love. I really enjoy. It's a different energy. The members of the band, as you said, they're very young. There's a lot of young energy on stage, and I love touring with crossover music. But if you make me to choose, then I'll probably say classical. I like Chopin, I like Liszt. Chopin was the first composer I fell in love when I was young, But there's so many, composers which I really like. I lean towards the Russian composers like Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Rachmaninoff. This is something which I really like. Prokofiev concertos are one of the best masterpieces which I really like. And Liszt, I studied in Ferenc Liszt in Hungary, so I love Liszt. There's so many composers which I really like. Shostakovich. It's different from piece to piece, Like, for example, Chopin, in many cases, like nocturnas, are really slow pieces, and sometimes they are much more difficult than some technically fast pieces, because you need to present the sound so all the venue can hear you, even in the quietest dynamics. With speed, I always had the ability to play quite fast, and that's why that piece, Flight of a Bumblebee, which is considered piece written just for speed, was quite intriguing for me. And to this day, it's one of my greatest hits. I always play it on every one of my concerts. My shows look like a pop concert shows, pop shows, just because I play crossover music, which is in structure very similar to pop music, with the beats and heavy productions. So visually, I would also like to incorporate a lot of elements which creates a great atmosphere for my audience. I don't know, because I'm a reproductive artist. I'm a pianist. I'm not a composer, so I primarily play concerts. But because of the COVID, for almost 2 or 3 years, I didn't have many concerts. So I spend a lot of time with my family, with my daughter, who I'm very connected to. Because normally I tour 6 or 7 months a year when I'm working. So this time was quite heavy for me for not working, but it was a kind of blessing because I get to spend 2 or 3 beautiful years intensively with my daughter.